Howdy everyone, it's Sam. Welcome back to the Wobble and Jaw Sports channel. If you're new around here, I hope I can get you to consider to like the content and subscribe to the channel. But if you are a regular around these here parts, thank you very much for the continuous support. Last year, I overlooked every team's fixture for 2023, and let's kickstart off 2024 with a look at the Canterbury Bankstown Bulldogs fixture. And what I do is I look into the fixtures every 5 rounds. I go into a bit of detail every 5 rounds. So rounds 1 to 5, rounds 6 through till 10, so on and so forth. The preseason challenge starts in only 2 weeks' time, by the way, ladies and gents. And to kick off the preseason challenge, it is the Bulldogs and the Storm, but we focus on the Bulldogs right now in this video. The Bulldogs, they host the Storm at Belmore. They are then the away team in week number 2 of the preseason challenge. They are back at Belmore though, and it's the Sharks who are the home team in the preseason challenge. That's half your luck, so that's a nice, comfortable start for the Bulldogs. Now we get into the regular season, and in the first 5 weeks of their fixture, they do not leave the state of New South Wales. They do not leave Sydney in any way, shape or form. The furthest match that they have to travel for is in round number 2 against the Sharks down in the Shire. But let's start at the beginning. So the first 2 weeks of their campaign is against Parramatta and the Sharks, both back-to-back away fixtures. That's a tough start. That is a pretty tricky start for anybody, but for a team like the Bulldogs, who did finish lowly on the ladder in 2023, that is a tough start. Both those sides looking to fight their way either back into the top 8 or climb up a little bit higher up that top 8 in 2024. Then round number 3, they are in front of their true faithful at Belmore Sports Ground, where they host the Gold Coast Titans. The Gold Coast Titans, they give the Bulldogs a bit of curry every now and then, and this Titans outfit are going to be coming down for them fresh off of a bye. So they're going to put everything into their round 1 performance, are the Titans. They've got a bye, and then they travel to Belmore. The Bulldogs, they have back-to-back away games against Eels and Sharks. Then they host the Titans, and we all know what the Titans are looking like this year. We know who the new coach is. That's not going to be an easy match in any way, shape or form. Then we move into round number 4. It is the traditional annual Good Friday contest against South Sydney Rabbitohs. And then in round number 5, they have their first true home game at Accor Stadium. It is the Bulldogs versus the Sydney Roosters. For a team, again, that finished low on the ladder in 2023, that start to the campaign is mightily difficult. Their highest prospect for a victory is against the Gold Coast Titans, but even so, that's very, very doubtful. Another victory that they could snare is round 1 against the Parramatta Eels. There is usually an upset or 2 when it comes to round number 1, but ultimately, to be perfectly honest, are the Bulldogs going to win a game inside the first 5 weeks? Looking at that draw in the first 5 rounds of 2024, they could potentially snare 1, or they very, very easily could go winless inside that first 5 weeks. Moving into round number 6 and focusing on round 6 through to round 10, in this block of games, there are 2 home games for the Bulldogs and 2 away games and 1 bye. And there is no free to air match for the Bulldogs in this block of games. In the previous block, they had Good Friday, and that's it. Anyway, moving into round number 6, they are away to the Melbourne Storm on a Friday night. The Bulldogs, 1 week later on a Sunday, it's a good rest. It's a trip down to Melbourne and then a good 9-day rest. They then take on the Newcastle Knights at Accor Stadium, and the scars of losing 66 plus will remain for the Bulldogs, and they would want to exact a little bit of revenge upon the Newcastle Knights. Then they have a bye. Then in round number 9, another nice break. They play on the Saturday night. They host the West Tigers, and as a matter of fact, it's actually a 3 p.m. kickoff, I might say. That is a game against the West Tigers. Then they're on the road, and they travel out west, the Golden West, to take on the Penrith Panthers on a Friday night. So they have their first trip outside of New South Wales to arguably the hardest place to play, and that is at Amy Park in Melbourne. Then they have 2 games at Accor Stadium and then out at Bluebet Stadium in round number 10. Are there any victories foreseeable in this block? The West Tigers in round number 9, they could snare, and in the early seasons, in the early times, you could see the Newcastle Knights maybe accidentally drop one where the Bulldogs will be wanting to exact some revenge. Section 3 of 2024 sees them hit the road in back-to-back weeks. In round 10, they were in Penrith. Now they're travelling to Queensland. Suncorp Stadium is the venue. The night is Friday night. The team is the Canberra Raiders, and it is the match that kicks off Magic Round 2024 on the Friday night. And then they have a 6-day turnaround where they then take on the St. George Illawarra Dragons on a Thursday night at Accor Stadium. Round number 13, it is a short turnaround for where they take on teams where they played last. So the Newcastle Knights they take on in round 7. Round number 13 is when they do the double against the Newcastle Knights. That is at McDonald Jones Stadium on Friday night. And then on Monday, they have a nice long 10-day rest where they host the Parramatta Eels on the Kings public holiday clash against the Parramatta Eels at 4 p.m. on the 10th of June. And then it is a bye. Their second bye comes in round number 15. So to surmise what happens in Section 3 of their season, they have 2 home games at Accor Stadium, home games, and they're also on the road twice, one at Suncorp, the other at McDonald Jones Stadium. Could they snare a win against the Dragons in round number 12? I think so, and if I'm not mistaken, that is a game that is going to be Origin affected, so the likes of a Ben Hunt may not participate in that contest. Magic Round could happen. The Raiders, they are tipped, they are expected to drop out of the 8, and some are even placing them as wooden spoon. I'm not sure if I'd go that far, but in any event, I think there could be possibly 2 wins, maybe 3 for the Canterbury Bankstown Bulldogs in section number 3 of their season, because that King's birthday, or what was the Queen's birthday public holiday match against the Dragons or the Eels, there's a lot of history that goes for the Bulldogs where they cause massive upsets. So watch this space for that contest. But right now, I'd say at the moment, section 3 of their season might be their most fruitful. Section 4 of 2024 for the Canterbury Bankstown Bulldogs. They come off the bye, and in round number 16, they are away to the Roosters up in Gosford. They nearly pipped them in 2023. Maybe Lux comes around second time around for the Dogs. In rounds 17 and 18, they have back-to-back home games. One game on Friday night, Channel 9 game against the Cronulla Sutherland Sharks. And then in round number 18, they are home to the New Zealand Warriors. In round number 19, they have their third and final bye. So their second bye comes in round 15. 3 games later, or 4 weeks later, they have their third and final bye. Depends how you look at it. Some would say that's a negative, some would say that's a positive. But from round 20 onwards, it's just all systems go. And just to round out section number 4 for their campaign, they have a trip to Queensland Country Bank Stadium to take on the North Queensland Cowboys. Sunday twilight fixture for the Canterbury Bankstown Bulldogs. So section number 4, there are 2 away games, one at Gosford, one in Townsville, and then there are 2 home games back to back. And are there any victories possibly forthcoming for the Bulldogs in that stretch? Besides maybe the Sharkies in that round 17 fixture where there are Origin, I believe that is an Origin affected game. I'm really not too positive about that part of their campaign for this season. This is the run home for the Bulldogs in 2024. So they actually have back-to-back away games. They have a bye in round number 19, and then they have the Cowboys in Queensland. And then in round number 21, their official run to the finals, it is a Saturday night game, a Saturday afternoon game against the Brisbane Broncos at Suncorp Stadium, round number 21. So that's back-to-back Queensland games against some very, very tough opposition. Round number 22, they are back at home at their spiritual home ground of Belmore Sports Ground, and they take on the Canberra Raiders, Channel 9 Sunday afternoon footy. On the road again, in round 23, they take on the Dragons at Cogra. Round number 24, they take a home game again to Salter Oval in Bundaberg, where they host the Dolphins. And in this fixture, they did defeat the Dolphins last year in Bundaberg. But again, you're taking a home game to Queensland where you're going to be hosting a Queensland side. I don't think that's the play that should be forevermore, but anyway. And then they are on the road again, but this time it's a big one, all the way over to Go Media Stadium in Auckland for the Canterbury Bankstown Bulldogs. That is a Friday night fixture game, and so far, I know that there's a couple of rounds to go, but so far I have not seen a 5-day turnaround for the Bulldogs in 2024. I might need to be corrected on that, but it looks like there hasn't been one yet. This might be the closest thing to a 5-day turnaround. They play at Salter Oval in Bundaberg on the Saturday at 3 p.m, and then they got to go across the ditch to Auckland to play on the Friday night. 1 week later, round 26, the penultimate round, they host the Sea Eagles at Accor Stadium, and then the final game of their season is a Saturday 5:30 game where they host the North Queensland Cowboys from Accor Stadium. In that run home, they take on the Cowboys twice, they take on the Broncos, they take on the Warriors, the Dolphins, the Sea Eagles, and the Raiders. Possibly there are 2 wins at the very least coming their way inside that final stretch. But whilst one of those games is technically a home game, that is all of a sudden a lot of jumping around to end their season. There is a lot of travel, but it is sort of lightened out with 2 back-to-back home games at Accor Stadium in round 26 and 27 to round out their season. Ultimately, overlooking the Canterbury Bankstown Bulldogs 2024 fixture, I'd say that it is a decent fixture. This team is coming in with low expectations from the rugby league public, and I'd say that their second section of their season looks to be fruitful. Their run home, while there could be a couple wins there, it does look tough. There is a lot of travel for the Bulldogs from round number 20 all the way to end round 27. 3 trips to Queensland and a trip to New Zealand, and throw in a trip to Cogra as well. As so far as strength of opposition goes, they do take on the Warriors, Knights, the Cowboys twice, the Roosters twice as well. So there's that to contend with. But I don't see, and I don't think I found any 5-day turnarounds for the Canterbury Bankstown Bulldogs. So that is a bonus. There is definitely a handful of Saturday games, and then they back it up with a Friday game, but that's technically a 6-day turnaround. So yeah, I'd say that is okay, but that start to the season is the worst part for me. Rounds 1 through 5, I think it is a huge possibility, unfortunately, that the Bulldogs don't get a victory inside the first 5 weeks of the campaign, such as the opposition. Eels, Sharks, back-to-back away. They host the Titans. Titans could be absolutely anything that day. and the Bulldogs are beatable in that fixture. They then take on South Sydney and then host the Roosters. That is a pretty rough way to start your campaign for a team that finished well below into the bottom 9 in 2023. That is my overlook for the Bulldogs. I think it's fair, but still, it's no draw is easy. It is tough. Thank you very much for your time, guys, and I'm going to fly through these starting right now in February. So thank you, guys, and I'll catch you guys in the next episode. Thank you. Take care. Adios.